You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
All right, so I'm starting
Happy July.
us off. Happy July. I know, I'm already warm. So I decided, okay, after a month of rainbow, where do I go after this?
Right.
Black and white.
So what are your feelings about vultures?
They're cool.
That's
Vultures.
they smell bad.
They smell bad?
That's the first
Very
thing that comes
important
to
to
mind.
the ecosystem.
There you go.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I tell you what I don't think of is I don't think of rainbow colors. I think of a lot of blacks and whites.
Redhead.
That's fair. Yeah.
Redheads.
So I feel like vultures get a really bad rap, but they're truly, like Victoria was touching on, they have such an amazing job in the animal kingdom, in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quite literally like the animal kingdom garbage disposal nutrient recyclers on the planet. Like without them, it would be insane.
Yeah.
So of all the things that they have to digest, okay, you think of dead things along the road or whatever, whenever you see a vulture.
Some pretty past its prime meat.
Yeah. What do you think is
Very
the
ripe.
hardest thing to digest?
Bone, I would think.
Bones. Hair.
Yeah. So bones, I would agree, would be the hardest thing to digest just because of the compact nutrients and just how difficult it is to dissolve them. So let's talk about a vulture that feeds almost exclusively on bones.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Oh boy.
Kirk, you sound like you know what this one is.
I do. Go on.
So
Go on.
this particular vulture, it anywhere from 70 to 90% of its diet is bone.
It doesn't sound that nutritious, to be honest.
It doesn't, does it? So this is the bearded vulture.
Uh-huh.
Traditionally, it's found in Europe. It was just reintroduced into the Alps, and it's found in the Pyrenees between Spain and France. It's found in Corsica and Crete, in Greece. It's also found in a pretty bigger swath in around the mountains of the Himalayas. I forgot the word for Himalayas for a minute. And they use those mountains to their advantage. These are fairly large birds with a wingspan of up to 9.5 feet or 9 feet 2 inches.
Ooh.
That's large.
Wow.
They're big birds. It boggles me. That's just so large. So they have that really large wingspan, but what really is interesting, or one of the things that's interesting about what is sometimes called the bone eater, is they actually, unlike most vultures, which have a bald or like just a skin head, they actually have a feathered head.
Okay.
Huh.
Because they
So-
don't eat so much wet flesh.
A lot of that is because they don't tend to eat a lot of wet flesh. That's true. But what else is really cool is not only is it like a feathered head, but they are white feathers. So to give you a little more description, this is this large bird, okay? Like it's a little under 5 feet in length. It's about 4.5 feet. in length. It's a big bird, and its wings and back are this dark brown, but its chest, neck, and head are a white color. And it gets these colors when they reach about 4 years old. Now, a lot of pictures that you'll see, they have like a kind of rust-colored chest or a rust-colored head. And that actually is because generally where they live, they bathe almost pretty extensively in water that has a lot of iron oxide. So it's dyeing their feathers that rusty orange.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We still don't quite know why exactly they do this. It's kind of bizarre. And like spaces where they can't find iron oxide in water, their feathers tend to stay white. Which is really just fascinating. So generally speaking, like bearded vultures, they don't hunt live prey. That's the whole point of a scavenger. They will find bones from like wolves or any other kills that have been left behind after a lot of other scavengers have gone by, and there's mostly just bones. And they're capable of swallowing and digesting like I think a lamb's femur was the size.
Wow.
And like the width of a sheep's vertebrae. If they're too big, what they'll do is they'll take the bone up, they'll fly up to about 100 meters, and they'll drop the bones onto rocky surfaces to shatter them.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And then they'll eat those bony parts. And it takes a while to master that in order to be able to figure out how to do that. Because I guess, like, if you miss, then the bone doesn't break, you know? I mean, you take anything up to 100 meters, it's going to break, I think. And you drop it,
Right.
I would break.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I think you would break.
Yeah.
So are they getting most of their nutrition from the bony part or from the marrow?
They get a lot of it.
Good question.
That's a great question. They get a lot of like the nutrition from the marrow that's left over in those bones.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that is like the primary thing that they get the nutrition from, but that is still mostly bone. To give you a little more context too, I was looking into like vultures like stomachs, because vultures are crazy anyway. The bearded vulture, the pH in their stomach acid is 1.
Okay. That's low.
That means that they can dissolve bone in 24 hours.
Wow.
So,
Yikes.
What does their poop look like?
I don't want to know, Victoria. What a naturalist question. What does their poop look like?
So that was her first question. What's that poop look like? Or the mutes, we would say.
Right, the mutes. I don't know. I didn't look into that because that wasn't a question I was anticipating.
Why not?
Well, come on, why not?
It should have been. I know.
Everything comes down to poop. You know that.
It does. So generally speaking, like not so much with the bearded vulture, but with such a low pH, not only are they able to digest bones within 24 hours, but they're also able to take other things out of play. Things like a lot of diseases, for example, that might have befallen that animal that they're eating.
Oh, sure, yeah.
For example, some of the more dangerous bacteria that has been found that that vultures in general have been able to be found and like digested and decomposed would be like fusobacteria. which is a flesh-degrading bacteria. There's also the poisonous Clostridia, which also is a pretty dangerous. It's poisonous. So if you aren't like a vulture or another type of scavenger, it can make it a really dangerous meal for a lot of other animals. But vultures will go in after decay has already set in. The other microbe that has been shown that vultures can take out is something that I've talked about actually before. They can take out if an animal dies of rabies. They are not necessarily affected by the rabies virus, and they are effectively taking it out of play.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like crazy things that vultures can do, and the bearded vulture, the fact that it lives mostly on bone is just fascinating and amazing. And I could probably spend like an hour just talking about the bearded vulture. I won't, because that would be insane. But I just want, just about everywhere our listeners are, there are vultures, and I want you to just appreciate the duties that the things that they're doing out in the world for everyone. Taking rabies out, getting rid of carcasses off the road.
Thank you, vultures.
They're really cool. Thank you, vultures.
Thank you, indeed.
So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we return, it'll be Victoria.
Hey.
Strange by Nature podcast is brought to you by listeners like you who have joined the Society of Strange, our membership group on over at patreon.com/strangebynature. Society of Strange members can join at one of 3 different membership levels and help support the show, and also get some fun stuff like water bottle stickers or access to super secret content. So thank you to those who have joined already to help make this podcast possible. If you haven't joined yet, we'll see you soon over at the Society of Strange at patreon.com/strangebynature. See you soon.
Hey, we're back. So ever since I became a homeowner about 7 years ago, I've found myself engaged in a war of attrition with various invasive plant species that want to take over my yard.
Oh, yeah.
Some are just annoying, like plentiful. There are a lot of them, but not too aggressive. The worst ones by far are definitely the ones that spread underground by their rhizomes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I just recently figured out that I feel so dumb. I have a patch of, I don't know if it's Japanese knotweed, some kind of knotweed. I think the previous owners planted it as an ornamental.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Terrible.
The leaves looked a little different, so I didn't recognize it. Anyway, I felt really dumb. I just figured it out. Now I have to deal with that. Herbicides.
That's not a fun one to deal with.
No. Anyway, it got me thinking about invasive species versus native species.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, every invasive species is native to some place.
Right.
Absolutely.
The invasive species in North America come from, all over. A lot of them come from Eurasia. But, although most Americans don't necessarily think about it, of course, there are American species that have become invasive in other parts of the world.
Right.
Yes, there are.
Today I want to talk about some of them.
Ooh,
awesome.
I am very intrigued.
It's such a cool topic.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple, but I'm super curious which ones you came up with.
Well, it's a huge list, of course. It would be impossible to talk about all of them. So I am just picking a few common species that people will have heard of, but probably never thought about in this way. So first I'm going to talk about goldenrod.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a beautiful golden flowered fall plant. You see it in prairies and roadsides all over. It's incredibly effective at spreading. It's wind blown, little sort of fluffy seeds, kind of like dandelion seeds. And it has done that to really bad effect in many parts of Europe and Asia. In fact, it's such a problem that it's threatening a lot of native plant and insect species in places where it's spreading. And
wow.
yeah, it's just it's threatening some species with its extinction in China, various parts of Europe.
That's
well,
intense.
It makes sense. It's a very even in this country. I mean, it's a very I guess some people say aggressive species. Yeah,
aggressive. Yeah. There are several goldenrod species that have become invaders. Apparently, Canada goldenrod seems to be an especially big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprising.
Yeah, not surprising. Next up, raccoons.
Hold on.
Oh,
Kirk, you gave us a whole episode about those adorable trash pandas.
Hold on.
Yes, the trash pandas.
Raccoons are invasive species.
Yes.
I did not know this.
You can probably imagine them causing problems wherever they go.
Well, yeah, I can.
They are really, really smart.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually deliberately released into a lot of places in Europe in the 20th century.
Stop.
To establish a fur trapping population.
Oh, no.
It's not the best fur.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's really kind of wiry.
They're like, ooh, what a nice raccoon coat you have there.
Yeah, that was popular for a while, I guess. Well, first the hats a long time ago, and then raccoon coats were, I think, popular in like the Edwardian era or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, often furs are processed and not worn as like a thing like a beaver hat is not a big furry hat. It's like a felt hat. Like you can make felt out of furs. So
right. But how cool would a big furry hat like that be?
We'll get you one, Rachel.
I
want to see Rachel wearing a Trash Panda hat.
That'd be pretty cool. Okay.
So there's a large population in Germany where I speak German and I just love the German name for raccoon. It's called a Waschbär. Waschbär. It's a wash.
Oh, the Waschbär, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Waschbär. That's because they wash their hands.
And their food, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Sort of.
I mean, they kind of do, kind of don't, but yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're established in various other places in Europe too, and it seems to be I'm sure they're getting into garbage cans and stuff, but they seem to be largely seen as a problem because they're a disease vector.
Ah, yes.
For some different like parasitic diseases. There's also a large and problematic population in Japan. They cause a lot of damage to crops and wildlife, and even there's a historic temple in Kyoto where they apparently took up residence in the attic and then just proceeded to scratch the heck out of the place with their claws, all of this ancient wood, and poop everywhere.
That's not good.
Raccoon poop is the worst.
It is. It's really
it always
bad.
Smells so bad too. Ugh.
Very sticky. The reason they're in Japan is just a little too on the nose. There was an incredibly popular anime TV show in 1977 called Rascal the Raccoon.
Uh-huh.
You can probably guess what happened.
Everyone
wanted a cute baby raccoon for a pet. And you know what happens when your cute baby raccoon grows up? It's a hissing, scratching, biting nightmare.
Yep.
They're not good pets.
Nope.
No.
Terrible. People just release them into the wild, and there you go.
Yeah. Hey, fun note. If you get a pet, you have to take care of that pet. If you cannot, you need to find a responsible home for it. It is not good to release your cats or dogs or
goldfish
or bullfrogs or goldfish. Oh gosh, not goldfish. Any of those things should find new homes. They should not be released into the wild where they can cause problems.
Thank you for your PSA, Rachel.
Anytime.
Can you personally send that message on to the people who keep dumping cats in the woods where I work?
Really?
Again? They're releasing them into the wild. When all that happens is they get eaten by coyotes. So stop doing that.
Yep.
But it's natural,
or
Kirk.
Just die of starvation.
Yeah, and then I'm hiking with preschoolers and we find the remains of dead cats. It's really educational.
Anywho.
Yeah. Next species, largemouth bass.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
They're a popular fish in North America. They're large. They're tasty. They're fun to fish. I've been told.
Yep.
I'm not a fisher person myself, really. These qualities made people think that it would be a great idea to introduce them as a game fish to various places.
Big sigh.
Yeah.
Back with
Unfortunately,
the goldfish, it's the same kind of thing, but out.
Yeah.
But, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're incredibly voracious and have outcompeted and or eaten up many other species of fish, amphibians, and birds, some to the point of extinction. Case in point, there was a bird called the Atitlan grebe. It was an endemic water bird of one particular high-altitude lake in Guatemala, and its extinction is largely traced to the introduction of largemouth bass in the mid-20th century.
Ugh.
So there you go.
That's rough.
Yeah. Finally, my last invasive species of this episode is going to be the eastern gray squirrel.
Yes, I was hoping you'd go with that one.
All right, okay. I will say it. Like, I think I'm pretty sure I saw them in Europe, and I'm like, they're here too.
Yep.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
They are now.
It is
okay.
obviously a ubiquitous mammal in cities and suburbs throughout North America, and now causes problems on other continents as well. Oh, the English.
Oh, good.
The English. There was apparently an English banker in 1876 who thought it would be just so charming to bring back a pair to ornament his garden.
Oh, no.
And he started a trend, ornamental squirrels. Of course,
Get
they
those out of
escaped.
plaster instead, maybe. Yeah.
There were many more deliberate and accidental releases throughout Europe, and it's become a big problem, especially in the UK and Ireland, because they are so much better at squirreling than the native red squirrel. They outcompete them basically on every metric, and there are almost no local predators that will eat them. So they've almost kicked out the red squirrels from the British Isles.
Oof. This episode should be titled, How Many Times Can We Sigh in One Segment?
Yeah.
Wah, wah. Let's call it wah, wah.
Did you have anything you wanted to add about the squirrel, Kirk?
No, just we think of them as like such a North American thing, and the other, like you were saying, these other sort of these things coming from another part of the world that kind of wreak havoc here, and you don't think about like the squirrel. What could be more like part of a forest than a squirrel? You know, it's so
but it
natural.
Depends on
and then
the
it's like,
species of squirrel.
yeah, please take your gray squirrels and go home.
Yeah. I find it interesting though because at least over in North America, I see like gray squirrels and red squirrels like duking it out, and I feel like the red squirrels around here at least tend to be more ferocious. I don't know.
Oh yeah, they'll kick the gray squirrel's butt every time.
Different kind of red squirrel, co-evolved obviously. So
got it. Ugh.
Their sort of Napoleon complex is an evolved response to evolving alongside gray squirrels and fox squirrels, probably.
Ooh. Okay.
See, the obvious solution is we need to take our red squirrels and give those to the
Kirk.
UK as well.
No.
Great idea. Let's do that.
No. No.
All right. So that was my amusing yet depressing little trip through several problematic species of our continent.
You're always good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good to talk about. I know I have some
niche.
invasive species on my list, but yeah.
Well, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, Kirk will have something to delight our ears.
Yes, I do. Yes, I will. Okay, so this week I have some news for you, and I know this lit up my news feed, and I'm pretty sure it was on your radar as well. So I wanted to try to sneak it in before anyone else could do this story. But breaking news: bees are fish.
Oh
yes.
You heard about this?
You know what? I After you texted about it, I avoided reading any of the news stories because I wanted to be surprised.
Good.
I've seen the headline. I know that bees are fish, but I do not know why.
I was
got
like,
sent
I call dibs
multiple times. And so I was curious enough that I did read through that particular article. All right, so please go on.
Here's the takeaway. Legally, in California, bees can now be classified as a type of fish. Or at least that's sort of the simplified version that's out there. So here's the story. A California court ruled this past month that under certain circumstances, so not all circumstances, but in certain circumstances, bees can legally be considered fish. And you would be right to ask, what is going on in California? And in the words of Stanley Hudson, have you all lost your damn minds? So,
what are they smoking out there?
Well, that's a different court ruling, Victoria. What it all has to do with basically the California Endangered Species Act. According to the language taken right from the bill, it was designed to protect, quote, native species or subspecies of bird, mammal, fish, amphibian, reptile, or plant. Now, can you see a problem here?
Yeah.
There's no insects.
Something's missing. Well, yeah.
Or invertebrates?
Invertebrates. So the act did not specify that it could be used to protect an invertebrate. And there are lots of invertebrates that people want to protect. So the notable species in question at this particular juncture was actually 4 species on bumblebee. And as we all know, bumblebees are kind of hurting globally right now. 2 of these 4 have pretty normal names. There's the Franklin bumblebee and the Western bumblebee. But the other 2, oh man, okay, so we have the Suckly cuckoo bumblebee, which is just fun to say. And I also saw some sources calling the 4th one the crotch bumblebee. Which sounds rather unpleasant to have a case of the crotch bumblebees. But really, I think this is actually...
Is it a kind of sweat bee?
Please let it be a sweat bee.
It's not. No, it's a bumblebee.
No, it's a bumblebee. But that would be so good, though.
Here's the deal, though. It was named after entomologist George Robert Crotch. So technically, it should be Crotch's bumblebee. Which
That's
is
almost worse.
Very slightly better. I think it's maybe worse. But yeah, some sources I read said it was
poor man.
The crotch bumblebee, and I'm like, I think it's called Crotch's bumblebee, but okay. So
that poor man.
Getting past that, of note, invertebrates are not just insects, right? There's lots of things that are classified as invertebrates, like mussels, clams, all the crustaceans, all the cephalopods. Yeah, there's a whole lot of animals that are seemingly not covered by the original list of bird, mammal, fish, amphibian, reptile, or plant. It turns out, though, that while the legislators who wrote the law kind of sucked at biology, they were not completely incompetent because weirdly, very, very weirdly, the law goes into great detail describing what they mean by the word fish. And here is what fish means as defined by the law. Quote, a wild fish, mollusk, crustacean, invertebrate, amphibian, part, spawn, or ovum of any of these animals. End quote. So that's a pretty weird definition of fish, but okay,
Kirk,
the law is what it is.
Wow.
I mean, I mentioned this, but didn't you hear there's no such thing as a fish?
That is true as well.
I have heard that.
And I'm kind of going to get back to that actually. So, given that the law defines fish as including all invertebrates, that means that legally a bumblebee or an ant or a squid or a worm is technically a fish and able to be protected under the California Endangered Species Act. There was actually some legal wrangling back and forth because some people were insisting that fish could only refer to aquatic invertebrates.
Well, maybe that's what the law's writers meant, but that's not what they said.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. It became like the intent of the law versus how it was written, and there was a lot of legal wrangling back and forth on that. And what finally, the courts weighed in on it, and they decided that the law says what the law says. It says invertebrates. It doesn't say aquatic invertebrates, and if that's what they intended, then they had to have said that. So therefore, they can now protect legally bumblebees under the California Endangered Species Act, which is pretty cool.
That is good.
So that's the whole story. There isn't much to it, but it did remind me of two other similar situations, sort of historically. It turns out people have had a hard time defining where to draw the lines around different groups of animals for a really long time. One that came to mind right away was going all the way back to the Bible. In Leviticus 11, there's a long list of birds that are unclean that people should not eat. And the list of birds includes bats, which are famously not birds. They are mammals. If it flies,
it's a bird. If it swims, it's a fish, basically, in the Bible.
Exactly. And that distinction of like animals of the sky and animals of the water is very, very common. Very common. So more recently, we have the strange notion as well that beavers and muskrats are fish, which kind of goes to what you were just talking about. I initially remembered hearing a story that Catholics during the time of the fur trade era got permission to call beavers fish so they could eat them on Fridays during Lent. And I mean,
amazing.
I can kind of see what they're going for there. They swim in the water. They do have scales kind of like on their tail,
Sort of,
like maybe. I mean, so if we can call bats birds, we can call beavers fish. Well, that's exactly what it was. I did some digging on this, and it turns out there have long been debates, specifically by Catholics, as to what you can and can't eat during Lent. And to be clear, like none of it makes any sense to me whatsoever. So I have trouble wrapping my brain around it. But apparently, while modern Catholics are often obsessed with the idea of fish versus beef, the more traditional divide was, like Victoria said, between animals of land and animals of water. So in many areas, muskrats and beavers have been traditionally eaten on Fridays as part of Lent. And this goes all the way back to the medieval period and continues to this day. I actually found an article about a barbecue restaurant that found that people were not coming on Fridays. And so they started serving barbecue beaver on Fridays during Lent. And it was quite popular.
Where is this restaurant?
Going on to this day. It's in St. Louis is where it was.
Makes sense.
So if we have learned anything today, it's that a lot of people were not paying attention in biology class. Or to be fair, millions of people have lived before our modern study of animal classification. And that sort of goes to the whole thing, the idea of like no such thing as a fish, is that even the things we in a modern time call fish are not particularly genetically closely related. They're just things that happen to be in the water. So to some people, muskrats are fish and fish are bumblebees. So if my logic works out, I think that means that bumblebees are muskrats.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that works out. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I probably should have paid more attention in biology class. My sources this week
I think
included
that's math.
CNN and NPR. So thank you to them. And I hope you guys enjoyed this bizarre story about bees being fish.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Thank you
I read that article.
So bizarre.
It was just so, I was like, I'm sorry. What? Because I got to send it like 3 times and I finally had to like read it. And it's just like, okay, that makes sense. I understand. Logically,
and look,
you would change the law maybe, but that takes too much time and effort. So we'll just do this way.
No. Yeah, I think it's, when you look at it, you go, oh, this is just a story about, interpreting language in laws. And it clearly, it says invertebrates is included, and they kind of included it with fish as opposed to including it further up. So who cares? But I mean, come on. Bees are now legally fish. That's I can't say
bonkers.
That's bonkers and awesome. Thank you, California. Thank you.
Headline writers everywhere.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And to podcasters. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, California. We love you. That's all we have this week, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. That's all of us. Perfect. Oh my gosh. Thank you for listening.
We did it. We'll see you next week.
I'm so excited. I'm both excited and scared for next week.
Same.
Oh boy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.